Google once forgot an entire country. So, the locals decided to create their own Google Street View using sheep. It sounds like a joke, but this actually happened in the Faroe Islands. It is an archipelago of just about 54,000 people sitting in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. And when Google hadn't yet mapped this place, the Faroes didn't just sit and wait. They strapped 360-degree cameras to the backs of sheep and let them roam the mountainsides. That is how they captured the very first images of the islands. The idea was a perfect fit for the Faroe Islands. After all, there are 70,000 to 80,000 sheep here. That is more than the human population, but the sheep are just the first strange thing you will find. They have dug 23 tunnels, including 4 that run straight under the ocean floor, just to connect islands divided by the sea. There are men who have to travel all the way to Thailand to find a wife, and an entire country that only needs exactly one prison. Anywhere else in the world, these things would never appear in the same story. But in the Faroe Islands, they are just different pieces of the same puzzle. At first glance, they seem completely unrelated. Yet, behind every strange fact lies the exact same explanation. So, what happens when a community lives almost entirely cut off from the rest of the world for over 1,000 years? Is isolation really a disadvantage, or is it the very thing that created one of the most unique societies in Europe? Greater than, many people are surprised to learn that the world's first underwater roundabout is located on a tiny archipelago in the North Atlantic. To the rest of the world, it is an engineering marvel, but to the Faroes, it is simply their route to work, taking their kids to school or heading home every day. But why would a community of just over 54,000 people build something that even major nations have never attempted? For centuries, the ocean was both a source of life and a barrier that divided the islands. Some days, a journey of just a few miles turned into an unpredictable expedition. Strong winds, fog, and winter storms could cancel the only ferry of the day at a moment's notice. To cross over to a neighboring island for work, school, or a doctor's visit, residents often had no choice but to wait for the weather to change. Instead of remaining at the mercy of the sea, the Faroes decided to change how they connected with one another. They tunneled through mountains, drilled down to the ocean floor, and built a network of tunnels linking the islands. Today, the Faroe Islands have 23 tunnels. 4 of them run beneath the seabed. The most famous is the Eysturoy Tunnel. It features the world's first underwater roundabout, sitting nearly 190 meters below sea level. Once the tunnel opened, the drive between the capital of Tórshavn and the town of Runavík was cut from nearly an hour to just 15 minutes. For many countries, this is an impressive feat of infrastructure, but for the Faroes, it is simply how they turned isolated islands into a tightly knit community. If you look at the Faroe Islands from above, you will quickly spot the most unusual thing about this archipelago. Among the grass-covered mountains and sheer cliffs, the most common sight is not houses or cars. It is flocks of sheep. Right now, the Faroe Islands are home to about 70,000 to 80,000 sheep, while the human population is just over 54,000. In other words, you're much more likely to run into a sheep than a person here. This also explains why many scholars believe the name Faroe comes from the Old Norse, Faereyar. It literally translates to sheep islands. The sheep does not just appear in the name. It has also been the symbol on the Faroese coat of arms for centuries. Here, they roam freely on the mountainsides, navigate the steep coastal cliffs, and even graze on the traditional grass roofs of Faroes' homes. Because there are almost no natural predators on the islands, the Faroes' sheep have adapted to a free-roaming life for over 1,000 years. They can find their own food all year round. Perhaps that is why, before Google put the Faroe Islands on Street View, the locals came up with a solution no one else could pull off. They strapped 360-degree cameras to the sheep, launching the Sheep View 360 campaign. What started as a funny idea quickly went viral across the globe. It caught the attention of international media and ultimately pushed Google to step in and officially map the Faroe Islands for Street View. It shows that the Faroes always know how to turn the most ordinary parts of their daily lives into a solution for isolation. But these flocks of sheep are also hiding a completely different reality. It might sound hard to believe for a country with one of the highest living standards in Europe, but for many Faroes men, the biggest challenge is not finding a job or building a house. It is finding someone to stay with them on these islands. Today, many young women leave the Faroe Islands for college or career opportunities abroad, especially in Denmark. Many of them choose to stay away simply because they have more options for work, education, and lifestyle. According to research from Statistics Faroe Islands, this has created a gender imbalance in an already tiny community. For many Faroes men, leaving their homeland is not an option they want to take. Instead, they look for partners abroad, particularly in Thailand and the Philippines. Southeast Asian women have now become one of the largest ethnic minority groups on the archipelago. To help them integrate, the local government offers free Faroes language classes. They also support these new families as they adapt to a completely different climate, language, and culture. What began as a solution to a population crisis has slowly become a natural part of the modern Faroes' social fabric. Surprisingly, all these changes have not caused any chaos in the Faroe Islands. On the contrary, it remains one of the safest societies in all of Europe. What would happen if you lived in a place where locking your door is basically an unnecessary habit? To many, that sounds more like a fairy tale village than life in the 21st century. But in the Faroe Islands, this sense of safety is something the locals have been used to for a very long time. The entire country has only one prison, which typically holds about 12 inmates. Anyone committing a particularly serious crime and is transferred to Denmark to serve their sentence. For years, murders in the Faroe Islands have been so rare that they are even rarer than Google remembering this archipelago. But it would be a mistake to think this is just because of the small population. The Faroe Islands are a community where almost everyone is connected in some way, either directly or indirectly. Neighbors know each other, families are bonded across generations, and children grow up in an environment where trust is built from a very young age. When everyone understands that their actions will quickly be known by the whole community, social rules often carry more weight than actual laws. That is the positive side of a society forged through isolation. While many countries rely on increasingly complex control systems to maintain order, the Faroe Islands hold on to something you cannot easily measure. It is the deep trust between people. But this tight-knit ... community is also the keeper of a tradition that has survived for over ... 1,000 years. It is a tradition that the Faroes see as a symbol of survival. Yet to the rest ... of the world, it has become one of the most controversial topics in Europe. Every year, a specific image from the Faroe Islands goes viral across the globe. And greater than, it is the sight of dozens of pilot whales being driven to the shore in a tradition called Grindadrap. Grindadrap is a pilot whale hunting tradition that has existed in the Faroe Islands for over 1,000 years. When a pod of whales swims close to shore, locals work together to drive them into designated shallow bays. The hunt usually happens quickly. Afterward, all the whale meat and blubber is divided up and given away for free to the community, rather than sold on the market. For many, seeing it for the first time, it is a shocking spectacle.